Thank you for joining day 2 of the Future of Electrification conference sponsored by ZAPI Group. And thank you for joining today's session. Navigating Challenges, Leadership Insights in the Industrial Electrification Space. I'm Lloyd Gom, Director of Marketing for the ZAPI Group of companies. And I'm pleased to introduce this panel and kick off a good discussion. Today, we'll explore the state of electrification, market dynamics, and how business leaders, we have 3 examples here, can navigate uncertainty, build resilience, and support their workforce through change. If time allows, we'll have questions available at the end of the panel as well. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce this panel from the ZAPI Group of companies. I've got Claes Avasjo. He's from the ZAPI Group and an executive leader for the group of companies, and he's from Sweden. We have Paul Murphy, leader of Inmotion US, and also in the executive leadership. And finally, Sarah Mackinnon, CEO for Delta Q Technologies. Welcome to the team. And I just wanted to say one thing. It occurred to me that with a Canadian, an American, and a Swede, all we're missing is a Finn, and then we'd have complete representation from the 4 nations face-off that completed a week ago. It was very exciting. Anyway, welcome all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Okay, so just to kick off, one sec. So for the first topic to navigate through, what is the current state of industrial electrification across key industries? So to be clear, this is outside of passenger car space. It's off-highway industrial related. So can we kick things off maybe with you, Paul?
Sure, Lloyd. Just want to say again, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm hoping that you're finding the conference insightful. I certainly have so far. But I'd like to start out, Lloyd, by my first comment is that the underlying attractiveness of the industrial electrification market remains sound, despite some of the market challenges we may be experiencing. So that's my first positive note for today. The market research continues to project that the overall global industrial electric vehicle sales will more than double over the next 5 or so years. I feel very optimistic about that forecast. I think when you take a look at the current environment that we're in, I think one of the first important things is to understand where we are in the business cycle and market development. So what I recommend looking at is considering customer forecasts, supported input. We look at market research analysis. We look at industry trade association data. We're part of the Industrial Truck Association, and that's an important component of market data for us. We look at applicable macroeconomic data, which I think is important, in trends. And combining all of these helps create a more holistic picture of your business and future outlook. Now, speaking, Lloyd, specifically about the material handling equipment market, and really for us as industrial forklifts in particular, that's one of the primary drivers of industrial electric vehicle production. We would look at some of the market data, economic data, the material handling equipment, and we look at particularly the new orders for that segment. It's been an interesting cycle the past few years. We saw that a peak in December 2020 for new orders, and that was driven by the uptick from the pandemic. We all know what happened during the pandemic. More people staying at home and created a great increase in demand for goods delivered by warehouses and so forth. And that really created a significant uptick in demand by many of the manufacturers. So what happened is the manufacturers could not fulfill orders based on this rapid increase and then the supply chain disruptions. And so what we saw was a significant gap between new orders and shipments. In many cases, this generated backlogs for many of the manufacturers in excess of 2 years. So after that peak in December 2020, orders continued to soften, and manufacturers would increase output to reduce the backlog of unfilled orders. So fast forward a bit, from my perspective, I see 2024 to be more what I consider the year of normalization, when orders and shipments became more normalized, as well as lead times. The business cycle data that we look at indicates that December 2024 was actually the low point in the material handling new orders rate, and the recovery phase has beginning in 2025, continuing into 2026. So another bit of more positive news from my perspective. Another thing that we look at, Lloyd, is, and this comes from the trade association, is what's known as the Business Confidence Index, something that's reported quarterly among the industrial forklift truck producers. In this Future Outlook Index, it actually entered contractionary market conditions in the latter part of 2021 and stayed contractionary until the second half of 2024. And just in the last quarter, 2024, we saw the Future Outlook Index turn sharply higher toward expansionary market conditions. So that gives us a great sense of hope and confidence that in the coming months we'll start to see this particular sector should increase quite nicely.
Well, that's encouraging. It's certainly been a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow.
Yeah, no, that's good. And one other important point I wanted to point out is that if we look at the overall, not in addition to the future outlook for production rates, the manufacturers continue to forecast electric trend to continue. And right now, they're forecasting by 2030 that the ratio of electric to internal combustion engine forklifts should be 70-30 in favor of electric. So those of us in the electrification space, that's another very positive trend. So we also look at, in addition, I just comment briefly, Lloyd, in addition to material handling, another segment that we follow closely is the transport refrigeration market. And when we talk about transport refrigeration, we're talking about both ocean and land. It's an exciting opportunity for electrification. You may not know that, but approximately 1 out of every 7 truck and trailers on the road use transport refrigeration to keep their freight in specified temperature range. That's necessary to bring the cold goods that we need to our grocery stores and warehouses. And somewhat similar to the material handling industry, we see the electrification of the transport refrigeration market driven by similar key factors. You have regulatory pressure, you have sustainability goals, you have technological advancements, certainly cost savings, noise reduction is important, and an overall operational efficiencies. All of these play a very important component into driving this segment going forward.
Well said. As I said, I know as a group we've been living and experiencing this from multiple regions and perspectives. I know, Sarah, you've got some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, for sure. Paul spoke about material handling and the refrigeration truck market. We consider those within the ZAPI group to be our traditional markets. Although these days we're very focused on short-term trends, which we'll get into during this call, in reality, these are markets that have had electric vehicles for years and even decades. Other examples in the traditional market space that we serve in the ZAPI group are golf car manufacturers and mobile electric work platform manufacturers. So these types of OEMs have been manufacturing electric vehicles for decades. Similar to what Paul described, seeing the same fluctuations in the market, the ups and downs, the challenges of the pandemic and the post-pandemic, but are also looking optimistically at the future and a long-term trend towards electrification. Within the short term, they've been impacted by government funding, such as the Inflation Reduction Act. And as they look forward, they are now impacted by more global competition, which we'll get into in a bit more detail. In our emerging markets, we're seeing slightly different trends. And I'm going to pass it over to Claes to talk a little bit about the construction market in Europe as an example.
Okay, so we have, as ZAPI Group, participated in over the last 5 to 7 years in many projects with the construction equipment vehicle manufacturers for compact machines, and we could see release of those machines in trade shows like lately here in Bauma, Shanghai. Several machines were displayed, and we could also see 2 years ago in ConExpo in Bauma, and we are looking forward to go to Bauma now in April and see more machines coming out. And several of them have gone out in serial production, but it has been a very slow adoption rate of electrification so far for construction equipment. However, it's pushed by the legislation in Europe at least, and it's very clear long-term goals for electrification. So I think it will continue, but slow. And then compared to material handling, it was mentioned here in Europe that 80% of the industrial forklifts are already electrified here. So adoption rate is very high here.
Thank you. I was going to wait till the end, but I thought actually I had a question from the audience. Maybe we can pose it now. Question is, do you see many prototype electrification projects that get announced or shown but don't turn into series production?
I would say, Lloyd, certainly from my perspective, we see some of that. I think if I look back over the past few years, is a lot of companies, boardrooms across the nations have started to embrace electrification. I think there have been some starts and stops with certainly some see an area they think might be right for electrification, but in reality, the market wasn't quite ready for it. So I've seen a few cases for that. It doesn't discourage me. I think that's part of normal as you see some of these emerging markets in more applications embracing electrification. So yes, I've seen certainly a few of those, and I think that's to be expected as we see some of the growth pains in the market.
Yeah, and I know the rest of the group companies, we've seen some of this. I mean, we're innovating, we're finding new applications. We will follow them and support OEMs in those spaces. But Sarah, maybe you've got some comments based on your experience.
No, definitely. I would echo Paul's comments. We've seen examples of those, and I think there's two types of examples. So there's customers that are out there looking at innovative solutions that are more forward-looking. They have no intention of taking those prototypes and taking them to full volume serial production. They're more of what's possible for the future, starting to look at all the elements of an electric vehicle system, for example, bringing in automation or wireless. And then we have other examples where companies and customers are looking to launch new electric products, hoping for a more significant adoption, and have not seen the result they wanted. So some mixed impacts there, but definitely we see OEMs looking at different ways to electrify in different applications. Absolutely.
I could mention that we see slowdown. I wouldn't say that means that these projects are stopped. Another factor is that the service people out on the field are mechanical and hydraulic engineers. So to train the aftermarket and the service people take time. So that's why the OEMs are focusing on some specific end users and supporting them as they build up this knowledge of electrification, which is required to support the vehicles on the field.
Yeah, that's a great point. Specifically, we've seen programs maybe even fail if they're not properly thought through with, as you say, service and training.
Infrastructure, even.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And we also went through that experience on the commercial vehicle side, specifically on city buses. It was a similar, it took time. The rollout for hybrid and electric buses took time because of that.
Yeah, great point. But I think we'd all agree that, we do like to pioneer, we do like to innovate and work and partner with companies that are doing the same. So there's always some inherent risk. You might be too early, not properly supported, but we do guide customers also through those through those perspectives. Okay, thank you for that. So far, we've talked about the market dynamics and some of the challenges and opportunities. Let's shift now to, as you're all leaders in this space, let's shift to that. And specifically, what are the key challenges leaders like you face across electrification markets?
I can jump in to start that conversation. I think these days, and also as we've experienced very specifically the last 5 or so years, one of the big challenges we face as leaders is balancing kind of short-term business priorities, which I'll come back to in a second, with the important work on long-term strategy and vision, which we'll dive into a little bit. So unsurprisingly, top of mind for a company like ourselves, the ZAPI Group, today, this week, this month is tariffs. As an example, all of us at the ZAPI Group are global companies with a global supply chain that are now seeing different market forces and different regulations driving tariffs, just as an example. So, of course, that's top of mind as we look at how to implement that, how to mitigate those costs, how to respond quickly. And some of those responses require big moves, such as looking at manufacturing strategy or executing on a manufacturing strategy that you've already chosen in anticipation of these kind of changes in the market. So these are very in front of us, immediately in front of us, challenges that need time and attention, but we also need to focus on the long term. We've talked a little bit about the market uncertainty. Paul talked about the pandemic, supply chain crisis. We've also seen disruptions in moving product, the actual freight movement of product through the Panama Canal, for example. So just another example of day-to-day challenges that companies are faced with that take time from the leadership on strategy. I would also, I think what comes with a growing electrification market is this space is much more attractive globally now than when it was smaller. And I think that's very natural. But what that means for companies that have been in the space for a very long time or are looking to electrify more equipment is there is just more competition, whether you're a component supplier or the OEM itself. We are seeing more global competition and more cost pressure that's facing all of us looking to electrify equipment. So that's another area that we spend time on in terms of near-term strategies for near-term impacts. Paul mentioned regulatory as well. So lots of day-to-day challenges in front of us these days. But at the same time, as leaders, it's important that we focus on the longer-term view. So how to do that, engaging and maximizing the productivity of our workforce. We need people on the ground to be driving change in response to these near-term challenges. And also, lastly, and most importantly, is the long game and what's the vision and how we're going to get there and staying focused on that despite some of these, very large challenges that are immediately in front of us.
Yeah, well said. Anything to add for the rest of the panel on this one?
Well, I would just say, Lord, I think all of us have a longing and aspiration for a bit more of normalcy and market stability, right? I mean, if I look back over the past few years, I've shared with others that I joined Inmotion in December of 2019, and things were fairly stable at the time. And then what happened in March of 2020, at least for us, that's approximately when the pandemic hit, and then went from a period of relative normal times to a period of kind of what I call managing the chaos. And it certainly tested leadership when you think about all the things we experienced, from labor challenges to supply chain constraints. Sarah mentioned freight. It was our number one objective through all of that was never let the customer down, right? Always keep the customer's production lines going. And we were always able to do that. It took a lot of Herculean efforts to do that over those years. And so, I think we're all longing for to like to see things a bit more stable, normal environment. I'm optimistic we're going to get there, and things have calmed down a bit. But nevertheless, I think there's still ongoing challenges, we all know, and just continuing to work together and address those, I think is the important thing. And that's why we're talking about this topic today. So.
Yeah, that definitely rings true. One funny anecdote, not funny, but factual. I actually report to two leaders on this panel, in Sarah and Claes, in their respective roles. So I can definitely, it rings true, the honesty coming through.
Well, I think just one comment,
Yeah.
you could debate this one all day, but I agree with Paul. I also hope, I would love to see more stability, but I also think that in the world we live in today with big market forces, but also, impact of climate change and what we see around the world, I think some of the instability that we're seeing now is going to become more of the new normal. And as leaders, I hope I'm wrong, but I think as leaders, we have to be prepared for that. And we have to be thinking about that and how we respond as businesses and how we have our workforce stay engaged through these kind of times that some people might find unsettling. I think for us as leaders, it's an important challenge that we get ahead of that. And like I said, Paul, I hope I'm wrong. So
Yeah.
as we kind of look forward.
Totally. Claes, I know you've managed through several, market changes and challenges. This is the latest one. And I know maybe you can talk to the fact that ZAPI Group, plays a long game here. We tend not to be reactive.
No, absolutely. I mean, short term, it's basic operational KPIs. We are focusing on delivering, good quality delivery performance to meet, customer satisfaction. More long term, it's very, very hard to understand the future and manage the uncertainties. However, as a privately owned company, we can invest into innovations, and we can future test a little bit of our technologies, and that makes it at least a little bit more easy. We are not forced to look at the month, the quarter. We can take a much more long-term perspective, and we also have a portfolio business, so we can manage the different regions depending on the requirements in North America versus Europe and so on. So we can use our resources to manage that. We also have, different products and they go through different cycles. So I think with that, we can manage the future a little bit, how it impact the present, if you put it that way.
Yeah, well said. And I think, one thing that occurred to me as all three of you were talking about leadership is, maybe some of our best work happens when we see slowdowns, headwinds, different market dynamics. Any thoughts on that? Does that make sense?
No, definitely. I think sometimes challenges, and whether it's in the market or somewhere else, bring out the best in people, a sense of urgency, a drive to action, and listen, and we'll touch on this when we talk about, our teams, but I mean, this builds character, working through big challenges, and it gives you life skills and develops employees. I think it is an opportunity to bring out the best in people, and as we rise to face, whether it's the market challenges or other, I think it's an opportunity.
Well, that's an excellent segue to the next question. So the third topic here is, how do you foster resilience within your organizations when facing market challenges, disruptions, fluctuations? And the follow-on is, what steps can business leaders take?
So I'll take the first pass at that, Lloyd. It's first of all, it's an important question, resilience, and I think it's a topic that all of us as leaders need to really be thoughtful about. So here, some of my thoughts, Lloyd, is that first of all, to be leaders and winners, we have to focus on our most valuable asset, and that's our people. I think to me, that's fundamental. Certainly, we have to have leading products, technology. We need to be financially stable, all of those are necessary, but ultimately it's your people that are your greatest asset and source of competitive advantage. And that's something that I firmly believe and always try to communicate throughout my organization. I think it's also important to remember that people want to be led. And it's our job as leaders of our organizations to lead, motivate, and inspire them. We need to be decisive. We need to explain the situation, environment, give them context for what's happening. But ultimately, we need to define reality and give hope, I think is important. And from my experience, positive disposition is a great executive competency to lean on in these times, and helps instill confidence. I think as leaders, we need to look for positive qualities in challenging situations. And having a positive outlook, it can lift the spirits of individuals in a way that motivates them to achieve. So to me, I think that's very important. And I also recommend, Lloyd, to what I call cultivating a growth mindset. I know that's very important to our organization, and that helps encourage a culture where challenges are seen as opportunities for learning and innovation. This mindset helps teams adapt to challenges more effectively. So those are some of my thoughts about this question of resilience.
That's great. Yeah. How you show up in front of your direct and indirect teams are really important. Sarah, I know you've got some comments in this area too.
Yeah, for sure. I echo everything Paul said, of course. And, I think along with the positive mindset and a learning opportunity for employees is transparency in terms of making sure that employees are really clear on what is happening and what we're doing about it. And we need to be doing that quickly and frequently, particularly as we're in very dynamic situations. So I think that's really important as well. And then what we've touched on a little bit through this presentation so far is the long-term vision. So ensuring employees understand where we're going, not just today and tomorrow, but beyond that, and how their efforts are contributing and how we can get through these short-term challenges and remain focused on the long game. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, electrification has been in some of our markets for decades. It's only going to grow. And so getting employees really focused on understanding where we're going as a company and executing on how their part can impact on our objectives. Just one final comment on that around objectives is ensuring that our employees are aligned to what we're doing as a company in the near and short term really clearly, tying those personal objectives of their performance to the business performance, to the long-term strategy. And keeping them engaged. And Paul and I work closely together on a lot of things. And I do just echo that the sky is not falling. Just keep pushing forward is a great a quality to have as a leader.
Okay, maybe I take it from a little bit different angle. So I fully agree to what you said. But yeah, I think as a leader, you need to listen and I think to understand where people want to go, and you need to guide and help them to learn in their position, and really need to create the true collaboration between different units. I mean, we have a lot of knowledge in the group, and to support the true collaboration, it should be easy to discuss things. I think it's important to be able to share different perspectives and then come to a conclusion and move on. So I think it's basic leadership things that are going to help to build this resilient organization and the growth mindset Paul talked about.
Just one other comment on that. Across the ZAPI group, kind of resilience or perseverance is a value within the organization. And it really comes through with many things that we do, has been kind of deeply embedded in the organizations. And so, and we are companies that have been around for years or decades, most of the group. And so really it's just naturally there in terms of being deeply embedded in the work that we do as a value.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a really good discussion. So we've talked about our teams, leading the resilience. Let's talk about and collaborating internally. Let's shift the focus to collaborating outside our organizations. So the question here is, what role do partnerships and industry collaborations play in driving innovation and overcoming electrification challenges? And I suppose I would suggest that this conference is an example of that. But anyway, for the panel.
Okay, I'll take the first pass at this question, Lloyd. First of all, it's another great question. I think the partnerships really present some great opportunities to expand the kind of electrification applications that exist. So from my business perspective, our historical business model was to serve large OEMs. That's kind of the way we were set up, and that's where infrastructure is really geared to support. But what we saw was the industrial electrification trend started to accelerate beyond our more traditional markets, such as material handling, and especially coming out of the pandemic. We began to realize that our business model was not well suited to address some of the smaller OEMs and machine builders who are beginning to embrace electrification. We saw that as a clear challenge. And although we've been working with some third-party system integrators for a few years, we realized that we needed to better embrace these partnerships if we really wanted to make our business scalable. And so that just one example that led us to a exploratory discussion with a company. It's called Applied Fluid Power. And they're the world's largest fluid power distributor, headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. They have over 600 locations globally, and they're well positioned to serve customers who are making the transition from electrohydraulic to fully electric or hybrid electric solutions. And so what Applied saw, at least going back to as early as 2021 from my work with them, that they realized that by combining the strength of their network, the technical teams, that along with a broad product portfolio of Inmotion and ZAPI Group, that it could be a win-win for both companies. They're kind of a one-stop shop for integration solutions. They combine hydraulic products, electromechanical products, machine controls, data connectivity, and cloud services together into a complete package. And so what is this, how has this benefited us? Well, it's benefited Applied by bringing our product portfolio and technical capabilities to the table to support these emerging applications. And it's benefited Inmotion by allowing us to participate in new applications that our traditional infrastructure business model was not well suited to support. So to me, this is just it's an excellent example where it helps to being open to partnerships and industry collaborations. Manufacturers, system integrators, and end customers all gain value by us working together in this fashion.
Thanks. Sarah, did you have?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that's a great example. At Delta Q, we also do leverage partnerships, and really it's an opportunity for us to provide better solutions to our customers, and as a result, support accelerating electrification. One program in particular, and I'll give a little plug to you, Lloyd, developed at Delta Q by Lloyd and Rod Darid, our Director of Business Development, is our Charged by Delta Q Battery Partner Program. This was really a way to show up and help solve our customers' problems. Launched a few years ago now, and the intent of the program is to identify, test, and then partner with key battery manufacturers so that together with the battery manufacturer, we can offer a solution to a customer to help them complete their electrification program. Having that partnership for the customer gives them a peace of mind. These are Lloyd's words. He always talks about a safe pair of hands. Makes the buying decision easier, because they're aware that they can rely on the charger company and the battery partner working closely together. We've had many examples of that, solving customer issues before they become issues, really, by working closely with the battery manufacturer. And then with that partner, similar to what Paul described, enable to build opportunities faster. So we have a large group of battery partners out there looking for opportunities. We're doing the same, and we share that information, and then together we're able to close those opportunities and help support acceleration of electrification. I think partnerships are key in terms of doing things like that. There are other types of partnerships that we look at as well, or collaboration. Locally, we're involved in an organization called Tech BC, standing for British Columbia. They're a nonprofit, member-led technology organization, bringing together like-minded technology companies. Gives us a chance to collaborate, work together on finding solutions to various challenges right here in the community, and just another opportunity for us to leverage other people's input, get a different perspective. And then, Lloyd, as you mentioned, even this conference, the FOE conference, is a chance for organizations to hear something different, possibly to learn and to contribute. These are all examples of how partnerships can add value.
That's great. And thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Although I have to say, Rod and the marketing team really built the program after the initial seed. But thanks for the color on that. Claes, in Europe, I know there's examples too for partnerships, where we don't necessarily expect to sell to the partner directly. Sometimes it's an indirect thing, but maybe you've got some follow-on comments.
Well, yeah, to build on what Paul started here, so we have several hydraulic suppliers we do collaborate with. We are working with, gearbox transmission suppliers to the OEM to build more, to help the drivetrain, build the drivetrain for electrification. So in the total ecosystem, I would say we need to collaborate, and sometimes we also sell to competitors. We collaborate with competitors to give value to customers. So we have to be very flexible and pragmatic here to understand the customer needs and help them. And then also more lately, we are investing into also automation and so navigation, fleet management, traffic control, telematics, and so on. And here it's a complete big world of different companies that can supply and add value to the OEM space. And we try to collaborate and find the interfaces to help and guide our OEMs in this space.
Yeah, that's great comments from everybody on the panel. Yeah, it's clear to all of us. I mean, to move the ball forward, the business model for us is selling to original equipment manufacturers, and that's key for off-highway electrification. Yeah, partnerships are key, and we don't always expect. In the case that Claes gave, in some cases, we're working with a competitor, but the central piece here is assisting the customer, putting the customer first, and trying to grow the business every way we can. Great comments on that. I think let's now shift to our workforce. So the next question, and the last section actually, before we open for questions, is how do you prepare, train, and grow your workforce to adapt to technological advancements and shifting industry demands? Maybe you can kick us off, Sarah, on this one.
Sure. Yeah. And we've touched on a few of these points naturally kind of during some of these other questions, but I'll start with the work environment itself. And we've talked about some of the interesting times we've been through the last kind of five plus years. We at the ZAPI Group, we see change as an opportunity, and managing change as an opportunity for our workforce to learn, grow, and develop new skills. So just being in their role and having an opportunity to work through these challenges is in itself training and whether it's about our values of resilience, but also skills in order to improve in their roles. So just getting the work done on some pretty big initiatives. So an example lately is I mentioned that we're moving our manufacturing from one country to another. That's done by a cross-functional team in the organization. That's not done by a number of consultants outside, right? So these are employees that get an opportunity to work on very big projects, to contribute and to learn about doing something different. So just that work experience is really important. Secondly, I talked about linking company objectives to individual goals. So helping them see that alignment and working with them to set clear objectives so that they're really focused on contributing, and then supporting them with the tools that are needed to finish that work, right? So we very much invest in training, both with external resources and internal, making sure people have the tools that they need, setting them up for networking opportunities. So for example, I talked about the local BC Tech organization. They have various sub teams where employees can be involved and share experience with like-minded peers. All of these are opportunities for employees to learn. And then across the group, we have some shared initiatives. So we kicked off this conference talking about AI. Across the ZAPI group, we have a cross-functional, cross-the-world team looking at opportunities to leverage AI at ZAPI, to learn about what tools are available and how we could implement some of those in a way to support the business and to support the customer. So really ensuring that we're looking at some of those big moves that are happening kind of globally and adapting and giving the employees access to learn and then implement tools like that. I think I covered off all the points. Paul, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I'll maybe add just a few comments to that, Lloyd. If you think about the pace of change just continues to accelerate. You think about Industry 4.0. We've had the sessions on AI, and this does present a very unique challenge on the workforce. And how do we adapt to that? And so a couple of things I think that have been really important for me is to not go it alone. I think Sarah commented about some of the partnerships they have with industries or organizations in her area. Well, likewise, we're located in Blacksburg, Virginia, located very close to Virginia Tech. So we're very fortunate to be close to a leading university, and we really try to leverage that. And I hope others that are fortunate to be close to universities such as we are do that as well. We hire many interns from Virginia Tech. It's a great learning opportunity for the students. They actually help us learn more about some of these rapidly technology things, but they also deliver measurable results and from their contributions. We also partner with Virginia Tech and support regional workforce development and training. I think that's been a great resource for us. And along with Virginia Tech, we have other organizations that are for us that are sponsored by the state of Virginia. These public-private partnerships that give us advice, help us with workforce development. And so oftentimes I think there are a lot of resources out there that can help you navigate these challenges that sometimes we don't reach out, or we're not flexible enough, or we don't engage to take advantage of them. So I continue to be encouraged that we have these kind of opportunities. These public-private partnerships can help us address these workforce development challenges.
Nice and said. Anything else from the panel on training?
Well, I think what Paul mentioned earlier, to build on the people we have is important, and to have what Sarah said, an ambitious purpose that attract and develop the people. That's what we're trying to tune into, and then of course the organization need to continue to learn, I think, to be prepared for the future, which is for sure and certain.
Yeah,
Agreed.
you can't. I mean, lifelong learning has to be a goal. But Claes, one thing you facilitate actually is we get together across the entire group with the sales leaders and the business leaders face to face in Italy to collaborate, workshop, talk about challenges, share experiences. I get together with Paul and the other business leaders at that same time, often with you, to really share experiences and advice and resources and tools as well. So we can take that opportunity across the very broad ZAPI group, in addition to looking kind of locally, as both Paul and I do.
No, I agree. The purpose of it is to be able to discuss the strategic direction for the group, to help the development of the organizational culture we have, and I think it's one important meeting to invest into for all people.
Yeah, I agree. It's not unique. There's other, I think many of the companies that have registered for the conference are global as well. But it is one of the fun things when we get together, as Sarah and Claes said, it feels like a bit of a UN meeting almost. We've got the regions all over Asia, product group companies all over the world. But the thing that I always compliment my international colleagues outside of North America on is you help to collaborate by speaking more than one language, unlike myself. So thank you for that, Claes included. Okay, we have 12 minutes left. I'd say we're right on schedule. It's been a good discussion. One of the things that I think rings true positively that I heard come out is we need, collaboration is important, both inside and outside the organization. Being optimistic, inspiring people in their organizations as we face challenges. But the other thing, I'm hearing is electrification is here to stay. So we're still, as a group, buoyed by the opportunities that we see. So any other key takeaways from the panel? I tried to sort of summarize what I heard, but any key takeaways?
No, I'll just add to that. Oh, sorry. Just add to that, Lloyd, around stay focused on the purpose and the vision. So at the ZAPI group, transitioning to an all-electric future, it's a long game, right? What you said. And our employees get an opportunity to be on that journey with us. And as leaders, this is a learning opportunity as we manage through these kind of this short-term dynamic environment. It's an exciting time, and as leaders, I think we're all up for the challenge.
Yep. Just maybe a couple of additional thoughts from my perspective, Lloyd, is don't be insular. Networking is key to stay abreast of market economic dynamics. I mean, participating in events such as this, I think broadens your perspective, broadens your mind, and that's an important component of trying to be the leader and staying abreast of these changing conditions. And want to continue to emphasize that, this positive outlook and attitude, even in challenging circumstances, is a great mindset for leaders.
Agreed. And to be curious. Yeah. Learn new things, as you said. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that. We do have a couple of questions from the audience. Let me pick one that's around China. Let's take this one on. I know at ZAPI Group, China is an opportunity, but it also represents competition for our Western businesses. So the question is, what role do you think China will play in the electrification adoption and off-highway markets compared to Europe and North America?
Well, I think they will play very strongly. I visit Bauma Shanghai in November, could see most of the Chinese OEM with electric vehicles in the construction equipment space. So they are for sure into electrification also in construction equipment, not just in passenger cars.
Yeah, definitely true. And like I said, we have customers in China as well, right? So they're facing their own regional headwinds, or we are as a part of our China-based businesses. But we do see some innovation coming out of China, and we see innovation coming out of our Western businesses. So I don't know, it's a bit of a balancing act, I would say. But hopefully that answers the question for the audience member on that. Sorry.
One thing, no, I would just add to that is I agree with Claes. I mean, they'll play a very big part, I believe, in electrification. And I spoke about it earlier in terms of as the market opportunity grows, of course, there's going to be more people looking to participate in that opportunity. And I think China will be a big player. And another point about, we talk about the China OEMs, but practically they are responding to some of these market dynamics that we've mentioned. So moving their manufacturing, repositioning elsewhere. So faced with the same challenges and responding. So definitely when we think about the business, we see them as a strong competitor, and we need to be agile in terms of how we either partner with them or respond to that competition. And at the ZAPI group, we're looking at doing both of those things.
Yeah, great point. And related, but slightly different, India obviously is emerging as key, and that's another area we're investing in and keeping an eye on. Any thoughts about that? Other than it's an opportunity?
No, I agree. Electrification is ongoing there as well. Faster in some specific markets, like the two-wheeler market as one example, but it is coming also for industrial vehicles there.
Excellent. Okay, so everything else we've covered, as far as I can tell, yes. And I guess now, with 7 minutes left, invite any of the panelists for closing remarks.
Okay, I'll just say thanks, Lloyd, for moderating our session. I hope people have gotten something valuable out of it. I've enjoyed the conversation, and let's continue on the journey. Stay positive, and I think a lot of exciting times ahead of us.
Yeah, same comment for me. Thanks, Lloyd, for the opportunity to participate, and looking forward to our next update at the conference next year.
Yes, thank you, Lloyd. I agree with Paul. I think we have an exciting future here with electrification. We clearly see many opportunities, even if we also see challenges, but that's why we're here, right?
Exactly. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you to our panelists. Thank you very much again. And thank you for all who's viewed this and for the questions. And again, thank you for registering and attending for our 4th annual Future of Electrification conference. I think there's still topics on the agenda, so you can access those by going to the lobby at this time. Thank you very much.